Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our session of today, this afternoon, within the frame of the European Week of Active and Healthy Aging 2021. We are going to see today or participate in a session dedicated to large-scale uptake of open platforms in the active and healthy aging and active ambient assisted living domains. The subtitle of this is Building Successful AAL and AHA Solutions and Open Service Platforms, sorry. We will share with you good practices and we will have a look at the socio-economical impact. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the European Week of Active and Healthy Aging for having given PlatformUptake.eu project that is funded by the European Union this opportunity to discuss with you all and meet you and share our own experiences. We will be three people today talking, but we also want to make this session very interactive with all of you. So we are looking forward to also hearing who are you and what are your experiences. For this, you will also get the appropriate frame during this session. My name is Javier Ganzagain, and I am CEO of Academy on Age-Friendly Environments in Europe, which is based in Gouda, the Netherlands. And we also have with us today Frederick from Levens-Lackman BBVA, and also Ricardo Vittorino from UBWare. Frederick, Levens, and myself are both partners from the project PlatformUptake.eu. Welcome. This session will last until 5 to 4, and this session is being recorded. I kindly request everybody not to share not to open the microphones, neither to share the videos unless they are talking by the end of the session. Thank you very much for joining, and we go. Very briefly, this is the agenda that we have thought for today, and would like to present you very briefly now. Very soon, Frederick will introduce what PlatformUptake.eu is, and also will make an introduction to open platforms. Then right after that, we will get practical experiences from one company, UBWare, represented by Ricardo Vittorino, who have experiences in different EU projects like Active Age and Tender. And he will present us two use cases. On the first case, use case and value propositions of open platforms, learning from smart cities, because we know that open platforms are very well accepted there. And also he will present a practical example on how these open platforms are being implemented or used in the AAL or AHA domains. Right after that, we have thought to dedicate a very long time of this session, more of half of the time, to share with you, to have an open discussion and interact with you all. And at the very end, we will have a summary of 5 minutes, and we will also show you other next actions that our project, PlatformUptake.eu, is or has planned for the next months. Again, thank you very much for joining, because without you, this wouldn't be possible. And we start already our session. As I said, well, I can't remember now if I said it, our session is being recorded. So please, just you are informed. I think the platform, Zoom, has already informed you when you were logging in. So just to mention now to you from my side, what are the expectations on this session? Yeah, this session has a couple of expectations, on 3 actually, because we want to hear from the various types of stakeholders that are using or would like to use open platforms. What are their experiences? What are your perspectives? What are your needs? What could be the offerings of the different providers, and also the benefits that you could have with or through the usage of open platforms. We also want to reflect, as I said, on benefits and challenges and what could be the important features of open platforms that could support you and your organizations to get an added value on your service delivery or service provision. What we are not doing today, we will not go into detail or technical detail what open platforms are. We will also not make inventories of specific wishes around certain applications. Many of these informations, or we try it at least, that are on the project's website and also on PlatformUptake.eu website. And well, we also want to discuss with you, or we don't want, sorry, to discuss with you in aging and care in general, because this is not the frame for this, but we want to see how open platforms could provide you added value to all this. Having said all this, now I already give now the floor to my partner, Frederick Levens, who is the project manager from Levens Lankman BBVA, based in, I think, in Brussels itself. Correct me, please, Frederick, if I am wrong, in Belgium. And as I said, he's partner from the project, and he will make us an introduction to PlatformUptake.eu, the project, and also what are in general open platforms. So, Frederick, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining today.
Thank you very much, Kathy, for your welcome words. Indeed, I'm going to go very quickly through some information around PlatformUptake.eu, which is the project in the frame of which this workshop is also being organized. Now, it's a coordination and support action, so the project itself does not develop anything and does not develop its own platforms or technological solutions. Rather, with a consortium of 12 partners throughout Europe, we are looking at what has been done already in the past, which platforms exist, because there have indeed been many initiatives, many projects also European funded and others in the past, working on the development of open platforms in the domain of active and healthy aging, active assisted living, but unfortunately not always with the biggest success. So this is an attempt also to make stakeholders who are active in this field better aware of these platforms, exactly what they are, what they do, what they can do, and trying to make sure that there can indeed be a larger uptake and use of such platforms in the domain of active and healthy aging. And Javier, you can move through some of the upcoming slides. They show the partners which I mentioned on some of the next slides. These are some of the major activities that we're doing in the project in terms of what I said, identifying what has been done, but then also with involvement of all the stakeholders coming to a better understanding and a better use of platforms. Here you see indeed the stakeholders involved. So obviously there are platforms, but we have the end users, which are the older persons, but also care organizations. We have facilitators, enablers, such as authorities and insurance providers. And we have a whole range of technology developers or product, app, device, sensors, monitor manufacturers who can use the platforms to integrate their end user products. You can move a little bit forward with the slides. These are some of the projects that we were looking at. This is basically from the past, what has been done. And when we based our, let's say, more detailed analysis of platforms, of their successes, of some of the hindrance factors on these that you see mentioned here. I'm sure some of these names will be familiar to many of you. These are platforms that are being used in some of them in active and healthy aging, but we also see that some of them are even more successful in some other domains and applications, and we'll still get back to that later on as well. Next slide. We have, and as I mentioned, we are indeed looking at measuring, successful uptake, what has happened, why has it happened, or why did it not happen. And so working with the various stakeholders, we were determining key performance indicators which allow us to measure that impact and that uptake of the platforms. Next slide. This goes a little bit more into detail as to what those KPIs were, but we're not going into that in this workshop. And then we are developing a number of measuring and self-evaluation tools that are going to be made available soon to platform developers and the wider ecosystem. But then coming to, let's say, the point I want to make, this is going backwards, I think, so we need to move forward. Yeah. So, yeah, what kind of solutions can be built? First of all, let me say, and you see this on this slide, is that this is still very much the present, but of course in the past that was the main thing when we talked about assisted living and tools. It was really hardware. Of course, over the past year, decade or two, with the onset of ICT solutions, we have been able, and we are able now, to address a lot of the challenges or the needs that come with older age, with health issues and so on. We are able to address those through digital solutions and services. And on this next slide, you have a representation of some of those areas around health monitoring, around context awareness, social connections, etc., where for each of these domains there are a wide area of solutions available, specific services, apps, and so on in the domain of ICT that can be developed and can actually be developed or integrated or built on open platforms. So this is sort of the ecosystem we are talking about and we are operating in. The next slide, please. This is a slide with a lot of text. That's not good, but this is basically what we are focusing on, and this has our definition around open platforms. Now, briefly said, it has, of course, a lot to do with an open digital ecosystem that can connect various devices, IoT systems, wearables, and so on, that can guarantee seamless data integration, transmission, and so on to make it available where it needs to be available. It is a little bit about plug and play. You see some openness criteria listed there that we have put forward, also based on definitions from others like the Aperta Foundation, like Universal IoT, dealing with open APIs. That is, of course, something that sounds very known to technology providers and developers, but for a lot of other stakeholders, this is basically information in the background which they do not care so much about. But what we're also going to look at in this workshop is what does it mean using open platforms, being open in terms of some benefits or values for those end user organizations, older persons, and so on. And you can move a slide ahead. This is just an example, let's say, of the past in telemonitoring or health monitoring, where it was all a lot of standalone solutions that, boxes that one had to buy and where you had to plug in a specific device. All that turned more and more into software solutions, cloud-based solutions, which can easily integrate various devices, sensors, wearables, health monitors, and so on. And so again, this is really what we're trying to move towards to. This is what we are promoting or at least gathering information and knowledge and sharing that with the AAL community about how and why open platforms can support these kinds of solutions and why they are beneficial for the different stakeholders in the system. I just want to mention as a final word with this introduction that we are providing already an initial list of platforms on our Platform Uptake Open Information Hub, which you see here. And we also encourage developers of platforms, providers of platforms to submit their information in order to be part of this directory or repository of open platforms. And the same with solutions. The platforms are, as I said, software, cloud-based, etc. systems, backbone. The solutions are, let's say, the actual products and services that the end users will use. We also have a directory of solutions, and the same thing there again, we encourage solution providers and developers to submit their information. That's actually the next slide, which you will see and where you can see some of the solutions that we have listed so far. There are already more, and so we definitely welcome via PlatformUptake.eu your involvement and your submissions. So this very briefly and quickly, in a nutshell, some information around PlatformUptake.eu and open platforms. And with that, I hand back to Javier to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Very interesting to see what this short introduction to what are open platforms and how can they be of benefit and provide some advantages to the different stakeholders. And also for introducing and presenting the PlatformUptake.eu project, which is trying to scale up and to support the scale up throughout Europe of such open platforms. Now I would like to give you the floor to Ricardo, but first of all, I would like to introduce him very briefly. Ricardo Vitorino, first of all, thank you very much for joining. Ricardo is from the company UBWare and is also participating in the Tender EU project, and he's a smart cities R&I manager from UBWare. And Ricardo will present today two use cases. First of all, is not 100% related to the active and healthy aging domain, neither to the active active assisted living program, but is rather connected to the smart cities. And there he will present us what are the value proposition of open platforms. And then he will also present us another second case, which is in this concrete case applied to integrated care, where he will present improving quality of life of communities. Again, Ricardo, thank you very much for joining. You take over control, so the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. Thanks everyone for joining today. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
And indeed, thanks for the kind introduction. So as Javier introduced, my name is Ricardo Vitorino. I work at UBWare as head of smart cities for research and innovation projects. We are a Portuguese software development SME. So we are a small enterprise based in Aveiro. We are now 14 years old, and we have been developing software solutions for improving quality of life for smart cities and communities. If you happen to come to Aveiro in Portugal, so the Venice of Portugal, feel free to visit us, where we can showcase our solutions and portfolio of software that we have been doing research from the last couple of years within new technologies. So always looking into state-of-the-art technology and do research on different novel technologies that help us bring to market different products, namely in the areas of smart cities, where we try to improve mobility, environment, energy, and also tourism, and provide better services and better digital tools for the community of municipalities, city service providers, but actually end users as passengers, tourists, and so on. And this also relies on telecom and future internet research, which means that we are always looking into novel ways of providing reliable communication infrastructure that helps collect data from multiple sources. So you've seen from Frederick that different sources of devices can be used in AAL, and I'll get back to that. But to make them work, we need reliable technology for communication, and we need this infrastructure to be ready to make it work. So we cannot do all of this by ourselves. So we rely on a good, strong network of partners all across Europe that help us bring technology to all over the world, namely 60 cities, or more than 60 cities actually, worldwide, not only for different systems that help people find parking space, that help them book for parking space, but actually helping our decision makers and public authorities to make better decisions. So getting back to that, so getting straight to the point in terms of smart cities and communities, our value proposition as UbiWare, and that's why Javier made the disclaimer that we are not experts on AAL and active and healthy aging. But we understand that regardless of the communities we are talking about, when we look at the region or a specific community, we know that there are different factors affecting it. So there are different domains that influence our day-to-day lives, regardless of our age, regardless of our gender, regardless of where we live. We also always have these different challenges on mobility, the impact on environment, the impact on energy, and all of this comes from different domains and different sources of information. So our value proposition as UbiWare is to create the organic approach to city management, which means that we are proposing to see the city as a living organism and making this parallelism with the nervous system. And that's why it's a bit funny that I'm here talking about the nervous system in a healthcare topic, but essentially we ensure that the information can be transferred from any single part of the body to ensure that it's coordinated effectively, and the actions can be coordinate. So our idea is to provide a platform that helps decision makers aggregate the different data sets and sources of information from the street level, from different devices, from different sensors, from different domains, and ensuring that they can use that information in real time to make a decision. And you'll see a couple of screenshots, actually some animated images about the project, the product actually, and you can see that you have a live map that showcases what's happening in real time. So essentially, as we move around on our day-to-day operations, as we go to a doctor appointment, as we find a parking space, or as we go practice some jogging, we are in fact effectively contributing to this ecosystem or being part of it. And not only we can benefit from having this information in our pocket or in information panels across the city, but actually the people who manage the municipality, the people who take decisions, can understand how we are moving around as a whole. Where do we miss public transportation? Where do we miss parking? What's causing the congestions, and what's the impact on the environment, and causing then some health concerns? And this is the sort of information we can bring, not only collecting from devices and sensors, but actually providing from existing databases and existing information systems where they can integrate with buildings and other sources of data to help planning and help making the improved quality of life. And some of this information, it's not only digital tools and IoT devices and platforms and sensors, but actually we have some information coming out from the community themselves. So we are looking up into people who work, live, and visit these different regions, that they can be a part of the system and help decision makers make better decisions, better informed decisions. So giving their feedback on the things that need to be fixed, on the things that need better accessibility, on the things that would improve their quality of life. So we create this bi-directional communication channel between the community and the ones who make the decision maker. And this, once again, can be applied to different types of stakeholders. We are not specifically focused on healthcare, but healthcare entities are more than welcome to be a part of this ecosystem and provide their feedback on making it more accessible and usable and safe and secure for their communities. Because overall, this real-time status of the city and the region overall helps the communities and the decision makers to become more sustainable. And yet again, we make this parallelism with the nervous system. I mean, where we have the decision makers aggregating all the information, but we have more and more infrastructure closer to us through devices, through mobile apps, through existing software applications that can help get our performance, get our senses, and help the decision makers to become aware of our needs. So once again, it's not only focused on public authorities and service providers, but actually individuals and organizations that have their specific needs. So our value proposition when we develop this platform that help decision makers from municipalities to become smarter and improving the quality of life for their citizens, we are in fact helping them breaking data silos, because they go through this process of digitizing information and not having them closed in specific interfaces or specific systems locked in that domain. So you wouldn't have individual spreadsheets or databases with their own data on that domain. You'll be able to cross and correlate this information and do cross-checking and validating that the actually pollution is coming from cars or from industry, and then take actions based on that and not assessing that on a common sense or empirical manner. And again, they get this benefit that they are not locked into a vendor, so they are not strict that provider of the tool, and become able to integrate more information and keep collecting it and using it the way as they prefer, using their own tools and not having to create new habits. And again, making sure that this is a proven approach by validating this at European research funding projects that I will showcase later. So as Javier promised, I will not give you more details on the technical approach and technical platform. Just make sure that we go through 3 different processes, which is data acquisition, knowledge, and then making it interoperable for third parties, which means that we collect data from multiple sources. We enable intelligent systems to create insights and predict and do some analysis based on the data we get access to. And then we make these insights and the data interoperable, openly accessible to valued stakeholders, and exchangeable between different systems. And you have not only the existing user interfaces and dashboards that you can use, but actually third-party applications can then use the data to improve their own process. And exactly this is based on open standards and open interfaces, because we are familiar with using the same power outlet in our homes and connecting the same different devices to the same interface. So why shouldn't we do that with digital tools and exchanging information in a common way? And essentially that's what we aim to produce, enabling that we follow common open standards, minimal interoperability mechanisms, which means that the interface of the data is common, the data models are common and shared, and we can enable then other stakeholders to monetize and actually create a marketplace between the different stakeholders. So all of this is very technological and generic regarding the topic that we are here to talk about. So I would like to delve a little bit more onto the integrated care ecosystem, where in the tender project, the Nature 2020 project, where we are working with different active and assisted living and active and healthy aging associations from Madrid, from Rome, also from Germany and Slovenia. We are working with 8 organizations that need to collect information about their patients, their doctors, and the families that take care of people who suffer from Parkinson, Alzheimer, and other comorbidities. And we work with them very closely to understand what are their pain points, what are their challenges at the moment, and what do they want to get through these platforms and tools, and helping them digitize the information. So you saw from Frederick's presentation a portfolio of sensors, different devices that would collect information that would benchmark our health status and our activities, and that's exactly what we are doing in Tender. We are running pilots with the 5 different associations in the different municipalities, where they are tracking and trying to understand how to improve the quality of life of the patients and their families and the people who take care of them. So essentially, we are helping them on making sure that all of the open standards and data models that I've just mentioned can be applied in this scenario, where we can understand exactly how people are facing their day-to-day operations, how they are feeling in the different environments, understanding the context of their environment, not necessarily the context of a city, but inside the building, what's the temperature like, what's the noise level, how is that impacting their feeling and their understanding of their surroundings, and basically providing digital tools to help the doctors, to help the caregivers to make better decisions based on all the context around those patients and families. And more than that, it's always complying with the GDPR. So essentially, we only collect information that's given with consent by the different end users and the responsible stakeholders involved, and we ensure that this can work and be inter-exchange between different entities whenever it makes sense and whenever there's an agreement for that. So we have the same technology running in 4 member states, so Spain, Germany, Slovenia, and Italy, and all of them comply with the fast healthcare interoperable records. So the open standards for interoperable health records developed by AAL 7, which is implemented with open source tools and enables us to exchange data between different systems and different devices, and we ensure that this can then scale up and be replicable to other organizations, other member states, other regions, and ensure that the information that's recorded by the devices, by the applications, by the different tools, and even legacy systems that were developed from previous projects can then be further upgraded and further improved within this ecosystem. So overall, the benefits that the entities can have from this approach is that end users, so from the different associations, can have all the information treated and stored in a safe, secure manner, processed by these open standards, and ensure that it's harmonized and properly made available for the different analysis systems that they need to use. Basically they can manage the whole thing on their own, so the interfaces and the manuals are then properly documented and assessed with them on the onboarding and testing, because not all the doctors are part of the project, so we need to really train and validate the information with the ongoing pilots, and the data can come from different entities, so they can really break the data silos, as I've mentioned, and not be locked into specific vendors like for instance, Microsoft with the Kinect cameras, or the Xiaomi with some bands that monitor the sports performance, or any other providers of different devices that can help us assess how people are feeling and moving around, but actually then engaging this open ecosystem. And that's only possible thanks to EU funding and research and innovation that's being developed all across different projects and all across different entities. On our case, we have 2 projects that have contributed to this interoperable platform, so Tender and the participation at Activate Open Call, as Javier mentioned. As I mentioned before, we are not focused on the business of healthcare domain. We are just helping these entities to overcome some of the challenges that municipalities have been facing with data silos and digitization, and helping them foster best practices from ongoing projects and initiatives at European level. If I spoke too fast, feel free to just jump in now for the Q&A and ask any questions or any things you'd like to know in more detail. And anyway, if you are watching this at a later stage and you would like to know more, feel free to reach us by email at innovation@tobeware. I'll be happy to answer your questions and get in touch. So thank you so much for your attention, and Javier and Frederick for the kind invitation and organization.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. It's been really amazing to see your examples. Let me please try to get back control of my of the presentation. Here it is. Yeah, so very amazing. We will come back to you during the discussion, but first of all, I would like to remind the audience sorry, it doesn't go forward. Because now we would like to start a discussion with you. We need, or we would like to understand who you are, what are your challenges, what are the different positions you have on this. So the floor is now open for everybody. We would like to hear from you. And I see that there have already been some questions. Nano, thank you very much for that. We will come back to you when we present our next activities. And in between, let me please remind you that there are 4 questions to come. And for that, we are using the Mentimeter tool, and Frederick has already shared the URL for that topic. And while we finalize the first question, this is very a simple question, but it's needed also just to understand what kind of stakeholders we are having today in our session. So please, during our discussion, feel free to go into menti.com and use this poll code that is being shown in the screen and that Frederick has already shared with you in the chat. While we get other questions, because I said that one from Nano will be answered a little bit later, I have one question for you, Ricardo, because when I look, I mean, you have presented first the case of smart cities, which is actually very successful. We all know that the smart cities are developing, implementing open platforms throughout the world. There is interest of the cities themselves. There is interest also from technology providers themselves, of course, from the platform providers, from the people developing technology, I don't know, in smart LED lamps, LED traffic, whatever it is. So all this is coming together, and we see that it works. Then, on the other hand, and you have managed to overcome certain borders or differences. So you are working on open standards, interoperability solutions, interoperable solutions, etc. My question is to you, Ricardo, what do you think is the difference? Because for instance, we know that in our case, I don't want to compare, but someone that has a lot of power and uses a lot of technologies, for instance, the hospitals, yeah? But we know that not always they are interoperable. In some cases, one department cannot work with others, they cannot exchange certain data. That's why the e-health record is a very good way to go on that, but this is just about a record. And there are many other things that we could solve. And I wonder, what could the domains of AHA and AAL learn from the application of open platforms in the domain of smart cities? What is the difference? Why does it work there? And why with us? I mean, we have many legislations. We have also GDPR, like the others do also. But why is it, do you think this is not working? But you have shown one very good example, yeah, in the field of integrated care. You are engaging with the communities. So my question, do you see a difference? What can we learn in the AHA and AAL domains for the uptake of our platforms, open platforms in our fields?
That's a great question, Javier. I don't know if I have an answer that solves it all, but I can provide you my feedback on some experience we have. So, smart cities, in fact, is a trending topic, and we see a lot of cities, and I know you are based in Barcelona, which is also a very active city, trying to improve waste collection and traffic monitoring. And we are aware that all of them are now in a very, very pressure to reduce emissions until 2030 and 2050s, because we need to reduce them in order to comply with what we need to address in order to avoid climate change the best as we can. So there is this pressure on their agenda to take action, right? So they really need to put things in place. So they find time on their agendas. They try to get funding to do it. They try to see what others have done, and they put that into practice. So I'm not fully familiar with all the ecosystem of healthcare and active and healthy aging, but I probably this digitization challenge that you need to overcome, or bridging this gap that there might be in certain places, and the uptake of platforms might be that finding the time or the stress to give it some priority and try to do so, which might be a challenging option to take, because I assume that in healthcare domain you have a lot of stressing concerns on a day-to-day basis, on an hourly basis. So it might be difficult to find the time or finding someone, but indeed there are now resilience support actions from the different member states, from the different cities. And we saw that with the pandemic, nowadays all of us can have a digital certificate that ensures that we have a vaccine, and we can enter different places regardless of our member state, regardless of our language. And that was developed in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months. So it's a matter of putting a pressure into it and putting it on the top of the agenda if there is nothing urgent there, right? So that would be my suggestion. I mean, cities have this pressure of digitizing things to improve their decision making, because they need to take action very quickly, and they need the best support as they can to learn fast and put things into action, which takes their time, because they need to find budget, they need to close streets, make some roadworks. And in a healthcare environment or in a safe environment, maybe that's not as long as it would take, but there are other urgent matters. You know, you have people to take care of, you have health concerns that you need to solve as fast as you can. So there is this compromise of finding the time and the agenda to do it.
Okay, thank you very much, Ricardo. Before I reply to this, and of course, if anyone would like to reply also to Ricardo, I would like to ask Frederick if we have the results of our first poll.
Yes, I'm actually
interesting.
showing them now. I think, well, we may have some shy participants, or not everyone has gone on to Menti, but we actually see, a very interesting result, that we have a lot of health care, social care organizations with us. And that is, of course, very important, because ultimately this is indeed about developing solutions built in the background on open platforms that can help, that can assist care providers, care professionals, and ultimately, obviously, the older persons themselves and their family carers as well. So we need to have that dialogue and interaction, and we need to provide some of the experience that is out there from solution developers, from platforms, but obviously also from care professionals and organizations who are already working with those kind of solutions and platforms. And I think what we see, because we heard, of course, from Ricardo, a lot of activity and experience, for instance, in smart cities. We also see in green energy, in smart industry, a lot of open platform applications. And then active and healthy aging and health and social care is not yet so much drawn into that open platform ecosystem or sphere. And that's exactly what we want to establish with, I think, some of the knowledge and the good practice from those other domains, those other industries. And there, I think, and what we often hear from the stakeholders that we are in touch with, it is indeed about easy integration, easy use of various types of devices and so on, that an open platform can more easily integrate, and where, as Ricardo was also pointing out, where the data access, data flow can be managed and handled easily, also in a way that obviously supports data protection and so on. So this is sort of a general perspective that we have seen, and we hope that indeed with healthcare organizations, but also with technology companies who develop the devices, that we can work closer together within the frame of this project, but also beyond that.
Very good. Thank you very much, Frederick. Very good to know that. Perhaps you can already open the second question on the Mentimeter, on the poll. Very interesting to see that the values or the percentage of representatives. A pity that we don't have end users there. So I hope that we manage very soon to have something or someone from this or other stakeholder types as well. This is certainly needed because we need to develop between all of us. Ricardo, yeah, it is very nice what you also said, but one question came to my mind when you were saying, these people in Barcelona, in other cities, they develop very quickly, there are successful cases, etc. And even in the case of they have very quick reactions. Between days or weeks, they can develop something. You put a very concrete example of the, I think it was the QR code for the digital passport, etc. Well, this doesn't always work. For instance, just an example from myself. I was traveling this weekend to present in the hackathon, and the QR code that they provided me, it didn't work. It was not validated or being validated in Italy. So this means I couldn't go to the restaurants, I couldn't enter even the official building for the presentation, but I had a paper, so they accepted that. So can you imagine what would happen with a person that is not digital literate or that is has some problems and suddenly wants to visit the grandchildren and suddenly finds herself or himself in the airport alone without money because perhaps I don't know, she gets very nervous. Can you imagine the consequences that this will have? So interoperability still needs to be worked on, yeah, but it's still very nice to see that these different stakeholders of the smart cities, they put priorities on that. But imagine, I also imagine that, I mean, in the hospitals, you have seen all the things that we have been living over the last months. So this is certainly to give solutions to our patients. That's more than important for them. I mean, their lives goes on that. So that for sure is not a lack of priority on that, perhaps time. So we need to understand a little bit more what are the issues and the problems there. And so, but certainly it's already a very good start what you are proposing and seeing that the communities collaborate, for instance, with the smart city, or in your case, for developing or improving the quality of life of the communities. That's very good.
Indeed. Sorry to hear that, Javier, that you were not able to join Italian restaurants. I could not imagine the pain of not being allowed.
A disaster. I couldn't stay in the terrace, so it was very cold. But I am not the only one. There was also other people for whom it was not working. So that's a pity. We have to be very careful, just quickly things. And for instance, in the health domain, we cannot just try something and go very quickly because the lives of people are going on that. So we have to be certainly very, very careful. There are a couple of comments. One from, let me check. Hajar Gavice is mentioning that she's a member of the Cost Action Good Brother. Thank you very much, Hajar. I don't know if you have a question or was just for general information to the others. Also, Nicholas Luke, I will read straightforward his comment. In the Open Day CSA, Coordination and Support Action, we look forward to integrate the knowledge of platform uptake in order to have cross-domains perspective while still identifying the healthcare domain specificities. Thank you very much, Nicholas. Also, we certainly can cooperate and increase the knowledge of each other and approach more domains, more people, more stakeholders. This is certainly needed. Brigitte, interesting that there are no users participants. How do you find out the needs of users? Well, in our session, we do not need that because our main stakeholders are the platform developers and the platform providers, but we do integrate them in the analysis. And of course, we have interviewed them as well. but a concrete person that is having direct contact to the end users is Ricardo. We have it on board here today. So perhaps, Ricardo, can you reply openly now to Brigitte?
Indeed,
And explain.
it's a very good question, Brigitte, and thanks for raising it. Within the project I've briefly presented, so Tender Health, which is I can then share the link with you. We have a joint consortium of researchers, industry providers, but actually end users. We have 5 associations that represent specific patients and families in different member states. So we have Salud Madrid and Parkinson Madrid in Spain. We have Sean Clinic in Germany. We have the Università di Roma in the capital of Italy, and we have also Spomenice. I probably mispronounced it in Ljubljana in Slovenia. So all of these 5 entities represent the end users that are actually testing out the solution and the devices within the project, and we have the patients and caregivers and healthcare providers to actually use the rest of the tools and monitor what they are doing. So we didn't push the technology towards them. So this was actually a co-creation process where end users who don't have a technical background actually pushed the requirements towards the technical providers, and we had to make sure that our solution would comply with their needs. So essentially, they can now have a continuous assessment of the services and components from the different partners. We can easily instantiate and make the solution available in different organizations. We generate custom and tailor-made reports for them to assess the amount or number of users involved, the data collected from the devices regarding the sleep tracking, regarding the day-to-day diary activities, and other more related to medication and other healthcare specific details. And we can, of course, continuously improve what we are developing with their feedback in an agile software development approach. So we are continuously collecting their feedback and validating what they are testing out in the pilots, because Tender is a project that's pilot oriented. So we are actually doing these large scale pilots in 3 waves with these 5 organizations. So we are really learning a lot on what works and what doesn't. And even if we have this user-centric approach when we develop solutions and we take into account accessibility and usability as a must-have, it's been a really nice and very enriching approach with what we have been learning with the end users. So it's been a really co-creation process together with them.
Yeah, I'm just going to intervene, Javier, if you don't mind, because we almost have to wrap up. Unfortunately, 55 minutes goes by very quickly. You do see here some of the responses to that question. Now, interesting that we do indeed have people online who are using or planning to use, but also interesting the don't know answer, I think, also has to do and we have seen this before with the fact that not people from a care perspective or background do not always know what is in what the technical background is of the solutions they use. So they may not be fully aware whether it's open or not. Now, in itself, that's not a problem as long as it can do what they want it to do, if it works well, if it's assisting them, etc. But so there it shows that, there is more work to be done in terms of knowledge sharing and awareness and so on. And I think this also comes back to the question earlier that Nano was asking about, okay, what do we do? Because we are indeed the coordination and support action. So we have a number of activities going, and we'll be very pleased to also get in touch with you, Nano, to hear about your offerings and what you are providing and developing, and see how we can feature this through our various channels and activities. And we will immediately show another slide with some of the upcoming events, because that's, of course, part of the mix of our activities.
Thank you very much, Frederick. So perhaps you can already open the next question in the poll.
Yeah.
And coming back to the question before, I didn't mention that, but of course, within the platform uptake project, we also have organizations representing the end users or in direct contact to them. And the main one is Caritas Diocesana from Coimbra in Portugal, and they are also participating in the platform uptake project, and also Academy, my company in the Netherlands. We are also in charge, for instance, of the Work Package 5, which is for involvement of end users. And in all our projects, hands-on-schafe.eu, biggame.eu, etc., we always involve end users, ask them from the very beginning about their needs, benefits that could be for them, or what are their challenges. We do interviews, we make them test pilots, etc., from the very beginning as well. Yeah, so this is something that we do, and we try to do on our best way, for sure. I cannot see, so this is because we have still many people, but before you leave, please answer quickly this third question, and in between I will jump already to the next point, because we are also looking for best practices, and this will be the fourth question. But before that, please, Frederick, explain what are the next actions, because Nano from the very beginning also asked what are we doing to address the awareness or to increase the awareness of the people towards open platforms. So please, this will be our last slide. In between, we will present the results also of the Mentimeter. So please, Frederick, the floor is yours to express these points.
Yeah, well, we do, as I mentioned, we do have a number of communication channels, which is, first of all, the online information hub, the PlatformUptake.eu website, where through articles, videos, but also especially that directory of platforms and of solutions, which has basically just started up and which was launched not so long ago, that's where we can provide information about and provide visibility and exposure to platforms and solutions. That's one thing which is then also backed by some social media activity. But of course, also as a coordination and support action, a number of events. We had already one webinar 2 weeks ago. We were involved in supporting the AAL hackathon. We have this workshop, but then we have a wide range of other events coming up. Maybe you can show the slide, Javier. Events that we organize on our own, which will be about involving some other stakeholders and presenting a number of experience, but also the challenges, but also pitching, where people, organizations, companies can pitch their solution, their platform, but also their, let's say, from a demand side, as a care provider organization, as a user, show their needs so that they could get in touch with or develop a relationship with companies and organizations that can provide them with, let's say, the technological solution. So that is coming up as well. We will be involved in the IFA, the International Federation on Aging conference. We are also planning, let's say, a final event for the project at Aging Fit in Lille, France in March next year. So all those opportunities will be announced to you through our channels, and we hope that all of you will get involved. And as I mentioned, there are opportunities even not to just passively assist as an attendee or participant, but also to present something, to contribute something to those sessions. You are muted, Javier. Still muted.
I didn't know how to go back to the right slide. And so perhaps you can show very briefly the result of the third question, because we are already 4 minutes after the end of our session. So before thanking everybody, of course, for their participation, of course, a very warm thank you for Ricardo. We need to understand also and to involve all the stakeholders to understand the needs, to understand their challenges. So please feel free to share with us also the different use cases that you might know about. There is also a space for that on the open platform. We have seen, thanks to the examples from Ricardo, that is not only work in the platform uptakes very broadly in the domain of smart cities, but also there are good examples, very good examples actually, which are being presented at the Platform Uptake website. There are already many things working working and implemented, but we want to scale them up. So please share with us your experiences, your cases, your platforms, etc. We want to spread the word. And Frederick, for the last third question, do you have the results? Can we present them?
Yes, they are appearing on your screen normally.
No, I don't see them right now. Just 1 second. Sorry, because I was in the other screen now. Okay, so this is the result. Data protection looks like to be the most burning issue. There are also financial. I am surprised there are no technical issues, perhaps because the people answering were technical. Remember the interoperability of the QR code. I couldn't have dinner. No, that's a joke. And of course, still support maintenance, knowledge, and so on. So there are different options, different challenges still there. We want to address them all, but please, as I said, we would like to know from you. And I need now to get back to my presentation. Now that we have seen that, I need to share again my slide. So that would be from our side. As I said, for presenting your different solutions or use cases that you think, please get in contact with us. Thank you very much, everybody, for having joined. I'm very happy that it was quite a nice team, although I would have loved also to hear more from you, have different stakeholders, but please, this is not the end of it. Here you have our coordinates. We are looking forward to your comments, either via the platform, website, via email, or via the Twitter, whatever channel you think it's better for you, just let us know. Again, thank you very much in the European Week of Active and Healthy Aging for joining. Thank you very much, Frederick. Thank you very much, Ricardo, and thank you all very much. Have a good afternoon.